Hello again, Starvers. We are continuing the quest. So that is Wes, lights out, no deaths, no rollbacks, all bosses. As we get the server started, I will go ahead and talk a little bit about my new plan. So I've decided to continue exploring the surface world. I'm not fully convinced that the base in spawn is the best location, and I'd like to scout somewhere more appealing. It's possible maybe the Moonstone would be better long term. You can set up infinite light there. Maybe the magma pools after all. I was looking at the map again. There's a lot of lobsters off the shore in the desert, and they can be useful for making some healing food. There's ponds over there too, and hound mounds, which can be used for making some other healing food, surf and turf. Ponds don't work in the winter, but even still, it might be a valid place to set up. So speaking of crockpots and healing food, I'd like to have some crockpots set up before winter. Without crops, I think I'll be needing a way to stretch my food supplies, and crockpots will be the easiest solution. I also think I want an ice box or two, and some drying racks, and some of the other essential structures before winter hits on day 21. So the focus today will be on exploring and resource gathering. I'm checking my map now and kind of trying to figure out which way I want to go. I'm going to do a little inventory management as well. So what I'm trying to do here is eliminate the need for my backpack. I know I'm going to bring Chester with me. I'm trying to decide what to put in him. I'm trying to starve to death, but I figure I better eat some carrots. So normally I wear a backpack most of the time, and I wear a football helmet. In a lights out playthrough with pigskin being as rare as it is, I'm not going to be making a lot of football helmets. So I'm not going to go with that plan. I'm going to stick with a log suit for armor. Another reason to go with a log suit is that I can wear the miner's hat. So while I'm wearing the miner's hat, that frees up my hand slot. I'm not carrying the lantern or a torch, so I can use this speedy balloon. Now the speedy balloon is Wes's primary perk to make up for his substantial list of downsides. So there are some other balloons that are helpful in some niche situations. There's a balloon life jacket you can make in case you have a boat crash or something, but the speedy balloon's really the bread and butter. It gives a massive speed boost up front, plus 30%, and then as the durability goes down, the speed boost also goes down. So you end up at 20% for the middle portion of the durability after right there where it farts out a little gas, and then 10% for the bottom portion of the durability. So I'm doing my usual exploration method of just trying to map the border of all of the biomes. I'm going to do a little fighting here and there and pick up the resources that are important as I'm doing the mapping. So there's a lot of spiders here, so I'm suspicious that this is a tier 2 spider nest. Or spider den they might call them. But spider nests or dens or whatever have a 3-tier system. They start out small, then get to medium, and then large. And then after that, they start walking around and spitting spiders out at you. It's pretty terrible. So I'm debating if I want to knock this one down at tier 2. I know if I attack it one time, a spider warrior will come out. And I just kind of don't feel like it, so I just leave. Now, I leave my balloon behind at 0%. You may have noticed that the durability for the balloon goes down even when you're not using it, if it's in your inventory anyway. It's kind of rare in that case. Most items aren't like that. So I'm not used to not having a backpack, as you can tell. So I'm trying to figure out the inventory management as I go here. There I was going to pre-craft a campfire to free up that space for the logs, but I already had one pre-crafted. I'm noticing here that I have 2 spears, and I don't really need 2 spears. But if I run into a few more spider dens, maybe I can use one up and then just have one. So this is a desert, and I'm coming right up on the oasis. The oasis is where I'll probably be spending a little bit of time in the summer. If this were a regular world, I'd consider this a deal breaker, because this 3 berry bushes around a pond setup. Oh, here I'm circling McTusk, so that's a triple McTusk biome, which you're not guaranteed in every world, so it's nice to get one, because McTusk has some important loot, at least for the, like, earlier game. Once you have all of his loot, you don't really need that many of them, but every world's guaranteed 1 McTusk, and so to get 4 is nice. Deal breaker, that's what I was saying. So the 3 berry bushes surrounding a pond there is where the springtime giant, the moose goose, will sometimes spawn. So in a normal playthrough, I like to base right at the oasis, but I wouldn't want to do that in this playthrough because the moose goose can spawn there all spring, and that would be really inconvenient. So honestly, that's enough of a deal breaker that I would probably just restart this world if it were a normal world and not a lights out playthrough challenge run thing. So these are beard lords. They're terrifying, but they leave you alone most of the time. They're the nightmare version, I guess you could say, of the bunny men, who are nice, more pleasant looking fellows than these. If your sanity is low enough, they turn into beard lords, and they drain your sanity more for being around them. But overall, they're kind of nice. You can give them carrots, and they'll help you fight stuff, but I'm not going to bother right now. Bunny men don't really care what you're up to unless you have meat. If you're carrying around any meat, raw, cooked, or crock-potted or anything, they will, they'll try to kill you. But I got a few light bulbs, and I'm out of here. I was trying to just run away from the bats, but I almost left Chester behind, so I had to run back and grab him, so they did aggro on me. But they won't follow me forever into the forest, and I'm just going to try to leave them. I'm thinking maybe there's a chance they'll get distracted by the spiders here, but they don't. Another tier 2 spider nest. Lots of lobsters on this world. I'm looking at the shorelines, and I'm seeing just a ton of them, which is nice. So here's a way I can use up some inventory stuff. I can just go ahead and use this bug net to catch 9 more fireflies, and then I won't have a bug net anymore, and I don't need it to catch anything else right now. I decided to drop that other spear because, like I said, I just had too many spears. Now I've got more than 40 twigs, so I'm going to put a stack in Chester, pay no attention to the fact that I missed, and then I put this single twig in Chester almost, and it's just a whole thing, you know. It is raining right now. My miner's hat provides a little bit of rain resistance, but not very much. You can see my little water meter is filling up on the right-hand side under my sanity meter. if you get wet enough, you start to freeze, and you'll start dropping your items when you try to use them because they're slippery. So it's best to make an umbrella or like a raincoat or rain hat or something. But in the autumn, this rain will be pretty short-lived. In springtime is when you really need to be concerned. So I'm getting out my shovel here. I've decided that I'm going to dig up 2 stacks worth of berry bushes. So I'm going to plant 12 of them back closer to my base, and I'm going to set 8 of them aside to give to Pearl for part of her quest. That'll be later on. Well, the berry bushes need to be fertilized when you plant them. So one of the advantages of juicy berries is that they rot pretty quick and can be turned into fertilizer pretty quick. So by the time I dig up all the bushes I'll want, the other ones will be rotten. Here's where McTusk spawns in the winter. This is the guaranteed one that I knew I would have. And then I said earlier that there's a triple McTusk biome, which has, 3 more of them, so that's great. So anyway, I'm going to dig up some berry bushes, let a lot of the berries rot, which seems kind of inefficient, but once you use that rot to fertilize more berry bushes, it's kind of paying itself forward. Here's a pig house. We haven't actually seen one yet, but I've talked about them a few times, so I thought I'd stop and dance at it. I'm not going to knock it down. You can knock them down and you get boards and cut stone and pigskin. I'm gathering silk. I'm going to need a lot of silk on this run, so I'm just getting it where I can. So there's some graves, and I have a shovel. So part of me is really thinking that I should dig them up for the treasure. But the other part of me knows that I said I'm not going to use any resurrections at all on this. So there's some possible resurrection items you can get out of the graves, like either the red gem that you can turn into a resurrection amulet, or just the full amulet. But I'm not going to use either of those, so I'm not really that worried about the contents of the graves. The other things you can get are little trinkets that you can trade to the Pig King, and the Pig King's asleep, so I'm not really worried about that either. Now, I just saw on my map, and just thought about for the first time, a tall bird egg. So I had previously thought that eggs were going to be more or less impossible to get on a Lights Out world. I know there's ways that you can get a bird by befriending a catcoon and doing all sorts of, 0.1% chance nonsense. But the tall bird egg is another way that I could get actual eggs, which would be nice. It's not as plentiful as you can get in a regular playthrough, though. There's another McTusk on the map. I'm just going to kind of go the other direction, though. I've got a feeling I know what lies ahead on that part of the map. So this is what I was talking about, marking the wormholes. So I put one on the top. I'm going to jump through here. And then on the other side, I'll put a trap on the top as well. And those traps show up on your mini-map, or your regular map. I don't know why I keep saying mini-map. But they show up on your map, and so you can tell, you know, which wormholes link together. Now this is pretty cool that it took me right back to my main base, because I could have a little summer base in the oasis, and then a main base here, and then I have a wormhole that connects the two of them. It's not that critical in lights out, but oh, speaking of lights out, there we go. Oop. Low sanity. I'm getting hassled by Terrorbeak here. And a crawling horror. And these hands are gonna steal my fire if I'm not careful. So now the one thing that I like the least about the shadow creatures here is that they can push each other. So Terrorbeak moves quite a bit faster than the crawling horror, but see, he's behind the crawling horror there. Or they. I don't want to assume Terrorbeak's a he, but the Terrorbeak was behind the crawling horror and was pushing on it, and that makes the crawling horror move a lot faster, and it can hit me in ways that it shouldn't have normally been able to. That's another way that they get you, is that they, like, if your sanity goes up above a certain threshold, then the nightmare creatures stop attacking you. So I used my spear to hit that crawling horror several times, and then now it is not going to attack me anymore, so I just basically wasted some swings of a spear. But I wasted a whole spear earlier by just leaving it on the ground, so I can't really complain much. Looking at my hard-earned one single juicy berry bush and debating what I should leave here at the base. It's hard in lights out because you have to carry a few light sources and a few fuels for your light sources. You know, I have a torch and I have light bulbs and I have a miner's hat and I have a lantern. So that's 4 inventory slots that are just kind of occupied there. Another speedy balloon. Costs 5 sanity to craft, but that's just picking one flower petal, and it makes you go so fast that it's definitely worth it. So I see this angry beehive here, which means that likely the bee queen will be in this area. So I'm just going to kind of scope around and see if I find her. Yep, there she is on the map. Put my torch in Chester, which is probably not like a brilliant move, but it seemed like the only move I could make. I have a lantern and a miner's hat. I shouldn't need to burn anything for warmth for quite a while, so. So I let that balloon go a little bit before it runs out of durability, and then it floats away. That also happens if you take damage. You'll drop the balloon and it floats away. I don't know that it makes a difference in like the lag of your server or whatever, but I feel like the fewer balloons floating around the better, so I just kind of let it go. I'm doing a little tracking here. You can find these mysterious footprints, and then you click them, and then you can see the direction that the creature has gone based on the shape of the toes on the footprint. You just have to follow it around until you get to the end. There are 3 possible options for what you can find at the end. 4 in a very niche scenario if you're doing this during the rain in spring in one specific biome. But for, you know, most of the time, there's 3 specific options of what you can find at the end of a hunt. And the 2 bad ones are very unlikely at this early in the game. And yes, you heard me right. 2/3 of them are bad. But the one that's good's pretty good, so we'll just go for it. Now I'm backtracking because I can't figure out where the next footprint is. So I found this footprint again, and I'm going to go forward. Now Wes just clapped 2 or 3 times, so I think that would have been a normal character saying the phrase, "Oh, I lost the trail. Better luck next time." But since Wes doesn't speak, I don't know what he was clapping about. It could have been, "Hey, I'm quite hungry," or "My sanity's extremely low," or "I lost the trail." But here's a footprint. I don't know. I don't know if it's a new one or a continuation of the old trail, but I'm gonna keep tracking either way. Sharp turn. Double checking the toe prints. There, so that likely meant I've reached the end of the trail. Now I go slow and listen, and I can hear that it's a qWESt snoring, and I could get right up and see it. So now I'm going to call this qWESt Lunchbox, and I'm going to take Lunchbox over to my base, and she can be 6 meat and a qWESt trunk if I get hungry enough. And otherwise, she can just hang out. Come on, Lunchbox. There's the bee queen, just for the record. So here's some more angry bees. I was worried that they were going to sting my gal, but they didn't. There you go, Lunchbox. You just hang out here. See, now you can keep food in an ice box. You can keep food in a salt box. You can keep food on your inventory. But if you can just keep food living at your base, that's the way to go. Now my light bulbs are less effective because they're partially spoiled. They're stale now. Finally, several days later, I'm pulling the second juicy berry bush. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have left these ones that were already pretty close to the base, because I'm gonna move them 40 feet closer to the base. That seems like wasted effort. Now with a shovel equipped, you can left click to do an action, or you can right click to dig the bush or the sapling or the grass. So you saw earlier I almost dug up a grass. That's because I was just hitting spacebar, which is the normal action button, but that defaults to dig, so you have to hit the secondary action of actually left clicking it. Now I noticed on my map there's the rook nose marble piece, which you can see. I can see it on the map before I could see it in the screen. So that's why I check the map a lot. It doesn't matter right this minute, but there are other situations where things like that do matter. Now these marble pieces you need to assemble for the marble statues, and then you can fight the shadow chess piece boss fight. They used to not have map icons, and you just had to remember where they were, but thankfully Clay added in icons on the map for them. I'm doing a little experiment here and digging up this moleworm's burrow to see what it does, and it hasn't done anything. So I was thinking that they just automatically made a new burrow, but I don't know. And I didn't learn. You can see some little charred marks on the ground. That's from meteors falling. And we are now into another mosaic biome. Inventory is a real bear in this one. I noticed I'm getting very close to a full stack of gold and a full stack of rocks, and I'm just going to try to fill them out and then stop collecting them for a little while. Oh, I meant to mention earlier, speaking about deal breakers, when I was talking about the goose spawn being so close to the oasis, that the secondary deal breaker on this map so far, if this were a regular world that I was not doing a YouTube series for, is that McTusk spawn right there directly on top of the Moonstone portal, or Moonstone set piece, whatever you want to call it. So I didn't talk about the Moonstone at all while I was over there. But like I had mentioned, you can get infinite light at the Moonstone, and having McTusk spawn right on top of it would just be pretty inconvenient. Now I've chosen to eat my seeds. I don't know if you can even grow crops in Lights Out. I'm not likely to find out, and I'm especially not going to sacrifice one item slot for a single seed that may or may not do anything anyway. Sometimes I wonder about the efficacy of the Speedy Balloon based on the fact that I'm insane so often and I have to stop and fight nightmare creatures. So I wonder if I wouldn't have been better off just traveling without the balloon and saving myself that sanity and then not having to spend the time fighting the nightmare creatures. But I have so far never had a playthrough where I've had too much nightmare fuel, so fighting these guys takes a little bit of time, but ultimately it's a resource that I'm going to use a lot of anyway, so. Double Terror Beak. Double a beak is double a sweet. So I'm trying to do some fancy footwork here. And it's not going that bad. So I'll just drop that speedy balloon. Like I said, I didn't get very much use out of that one. But now I have 10 nightmare fuel. And that's useful for a ton of stuff. Late game crafting recipes. There's another free inventory slot. So that one I didn't dig up. I think because it was so close to base. I think I had kind of seen the error in my ways by this point. Oh, I hear old Lunchbox snoring. We woke her up. I noticed there that I had quite a bit of silk, 7 silk, which isn't actually quite a bit, but is enough to make a top hat. So I'm making myself a top hat. I'm not going to actually wear it, but I do look very stylish. But the top hat is a crafting ingredient for the magic version of the science machine, which is called the Prestihatitator. Now I'm leaving this 9% pickaxe in base. The pickaxe is a crafting ingredient for the thermal stone. Now, Thermal stone is very important during the winter. You can heat it up by the fire, and then you take it with you, and you get to take some of the warmth of the fire with you. I'm probably also going to be making some insulated clothing for the winter as well, but I always have a thermal stone anyway. The insulated clothing is typically better than a thermal stone. It makes you warmer longer, or equal to the thermal stone, but with less prep and stuff. But in some situations, you'll get into a real tight spot where you want to wear 2 pieces of armor, like a helmet and a log suit, and so you don't want to be wearing a winter vest or a beefalo hat or anything like that. And then if you take your winter clothing off to put your armor on, you just start freezing immediately. But if you have that thermal stone, then you have that extra source of warmth. Hark, hark, I hear a bark. That means that it is time for the first hound wave. Every 10-ish days, the game tries to keep you on your toes by sending hounds at you. These are very similar to the hounds we ran past in the desert earlier, but they aren't tethered to the hound mounds like those ones were. So they'll just chase you forever until they get distracted or you kill them. So hounds will bite at you, and then they will either keep biting at you or they'll look around for something else to fight. Now, in Lights Out, there are fewer things for them to fight because there's no bees or butterflies or anything, but they still can switch aggro. If you're in a multiplayer world, hounds have a higher chance to attack qWESt than any other character, but that doesn't really matter for me here. I don't know why that hound got so hung up on the fire, but it did, and that was fine. So multiple hounds at once are kind of hard to deal with. But see, that one got distracted chewing on Chester, so I can kill this other one, no problem. And then go back for that one to defend Chester. So you can do 2 hits on a hound and then dodge. And if you're really sure that they're going to die on the 3rd hit, you can do 3 hits. You can't dodge after that 3rd hit. So if you were wrong, you're going to get bitten. But if that 3rd hit kills him, then you just saved yourself having to dodge once, and it's a little bit of a time saver. So I hear this sanity music playing, and here is another nightmare creature to fight. Perfect. Ended the spear, got the nightmare fuel, and I have a log suit at 1% durability. So I'm going to start chopping some trees to make another log suit. A log suit at that low durability still burns in a fire as long as a log suit at 100% durability, and log suits burn in a fire a very long time. So I'm going to keep this 1% one, and I'll use it as fuel later. So I came this way for 2 reasons. Not only to chop some wood and explore some stuff, but I specifically steered into the deciduous forest to look for the statue and the glommer, because I knew that day 10 was coming to a close, which meant day 11 was starting up, which meant that it was the time for the first full moon. So now the full moon has started. Charlie is powerless to stop me as I run around in the light. Any pigs will have turned into were-pigs. Woody players will be transforming into one of his were forms at random. There's pools on the lunar island and in the lunar grotto. They have a chance to fill with moon glass, and all the graves in the world will have ghosts flying around them. But the thing I'm more interested in is the Glommer, who spawns at a specific statue in the deciduous forest. Now, my world has 2 deciduous forests in it, and I was not in the correct one at the start of the full moon. So looking at the map, I've got a little bit of a haul. I can see the deciduous forest on the edge of the map up here, so I've equipped my speedy balloon, and I'm booking it to try to get to the Glommer. Glommer gives a little passive sanity gain when... Ooh, free healing. Yoink. Glommer gives a little bit of passive sanity gain when you stand near him. So I like to put him in my kitchen or somewhere that I spend a fair amount of time standing. Additionally, he poops out this Glommer goop every so often. It's a really good fuel source, but also you can eat it. That's like the secondary thing you can do with it. And if you eat it, it gives you a lot of health at the cost of a lot of sanity. So it is plus 40 health minus 50 sanity. But if you eat it at low sanity, I mean, you can't go negative, so you can, you know, if you eat it at 0 sanity, it's plus 40 health minus nothing, so it can be pretty helpful. Okay, so now here's a mandrake. There's 2 forests. There's the McTusk and whatever it's called, forest, Moonstone Forest, and then there's the Mandrake Forest. So you're guaranteed to get at least 2 mandrakes, and you can get 3 or 4. And mandrakes are very helpful. They can be used to craft an item that puts everything on the screen to sleep. So I want to find the mandrakes, and I see I still have plenty of time to go get Glommer afterwards. So I'm exploring the whole area that they can spawn in, and I'm grabbing them. I've taken note of the fact that there are some beefalo here. I will likely come back to kill them later, or to shave some of them and then kill some of them. So you can shave them for their wool, and you can kill them for a chance for their horns, and I need woolen horns to make the beefalo hat. So I got 3 mandrakes following me now, which is kind of dangerous, I think. I don't know if spiders will kill and eat them, but I'm trying to kind of dodge around the spiders just to be safe. So if you pick a mandrake during the day, it dies. If you pick it in the evening or at night, it'll follow you around and then replant itself the next day, if such a day ever were to come. Here's this lazy guy taking a snooze. There's the Glommer's flower. We did it. Oh, hi, Glommy. So now that I have the flower, the Glommer will follow me, very similar to how Chester follows the eye bone. Glommer. So mandrakes make this noise, and they don't stop until you kill them. They're hard to click to kill. I don't know why control click doesn't work, control F doesn't work. You have to control click. And they are pretty difficult to click, so. But there they go, 3 mandrakes down. There's the pan flute. That's the item you can make with mandrakes, but you also just can find 1 on the ground. You get 1 per world. It always spawns near the Glommer. The full moon's so relaxing. Not very many threats going on right now. So this juicy berry bush finishes my first stack of 10. I think I am going to go for more. As I mentioned, I can give 8 of these 10 to Pearl, so it's really only 2 for me. I could plant them and then dig them up again for Pearl, but they take a long time to fruit. I think close to 10 days. It's like some time between 7 and 10 days, depending on your luck. And since winter's in 10 days, I mean, I might not get them to fruit before winter. And so, depending on when I go to visit Pearl, it might not be worth my time to plant them. I might not even get a harvest before I leave for her island. So, speaking of islands, I'm seeing a very long, flat edge of the map that I'm running along now. A lot of the time, that means that the lunar island will be off of this edge. So I'm making a note of that. I might make a boat and come back here and explore. So now that catcoon was just attacking my newest and bestest friend, the glommer. Catcoons have some uses, but overall, they are kind of a nuisance animal. They got better recently in the current event that's going on, the Year of the Catcoon. Clay added the fact that catcoons now will take items that they steal from you and put them in their like catcoon den. So before they would just delete items. Like if you left something on the ground and the catcoon picked it up, it just got deleted. They didn't have an inventory of their own, and they didn't have anywhere to put the item. So now it's not quite as bad, because you do have a chance to get back that rare thing that the catcoon stole from you. But the fact that they steal from you at all is annoying. So I have a full stack of twigs, and yet I keep picking up twigs and then just kind of dropping them. So I know this catcoon's going to go for glommer, but I gotta pull the dirt pile, so I just got it and ran, and I hoped glommer would do okay. I don't think glommer has very much health. He's not like Chester. Chester can take a punch. Nighttime, so harder to do the hunt, but luckily that was the last track. So we're sneaking and listening. Koalefant snoring again. Wonderful. Another delicious meal on wheels here. I'm not going to chase this girl all the way back to base. That's too far. But I'm going to try to put her somewhere that I remember where she is. So I got close to a road, close-ish to the Pig King. Close to a wormhole, too. So I looked at the map to see which direction my other wormhole marker was going, and then I put this one in a different direction so that they, indicate differently which hole is which. Swamp, not really interested. I'm just gonna head away from the swamp towards the safer biomes. I don't really need any reeds right now. There are some pig heads that I could hammer down and get some pig skin for free. There were pig heads over by those beefalo too. I took a note of that. So I might go check that out later. One of the things about the swamp is you get the reeds. You make the reeds into a papyrus, 2 papyrus in fact. And then you use the 2 papyrus to craft a bird cage with some other stuff. And then you can put your bird in there and get all sorts of eggs and seeds and everything, but there's no birds in Lights Out, so I'm not worried about reeds right now. Some pants that I don't want to wear. That's okay. I look very stylish without them. So I'm gonna put my important stuff in this chest. I'm gonna get bitten by a crawling horror or a terrorbeak. I'm not clear on which one it was. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do about a light source here, and I'm having trouble coming to a solution. I like to fight terror beaks and crawling horrors on this type of turf that is easier to see them on. On like the darker colored forest turf, it's really hard to see the shadow creatures. So this lighter colored forest turf is what I'm going for. There I'm using my old log suit. I don't have a spear, so we gotta do it old school and kill him with an axe. At least we have armor. Now these shadow hands are gonna kinda nullify the fact that I put a really high fuel source thing in there. I didn't get that one to poof away. You can still hear the music. So we're gonna try again, I think. There it went. Fire's still roaring, but not quite as high as it would have been if I'd have gotten both shadow hands. T-Beak pushing the night horror towards me. See, I bet you're thinking, well, we're almost at the end of the video and you're fighting these guys. Is that because you're just about to die and then end the video on your death? And it's not. We did it. We killed a terror beak with an axe. So, made it through the Hound wave, made it through the first full moon, got a lot of supplies. I'm feeling alright about setting up the base. I think that this is a pretty good spot after all. I did kind of decide against the Oasis and against the Moonstone, just based on the proximity of other seasonal threats like moose and McTusk. They're not quite as threatening in lights out though, because they do sleep, so you never know. Maybe I'll set up some forward operating bases out there. But for now, we're just going to be happy with the little base we've got.